Bendigo Dragons 26 defeated the Croydon Rangers 24. Croydon were ready to take on the visiting Dragons at Ranger Field on a windy yet sunny afternoon in Croydon. The Rangers were coming off an impressive win the previous week, while the Dragons put up a fighting effort against the league-leading Crusaders. Most had the Rangers winning this matchup reasonably comfortably, but the Dragons weren't going to allow that to happen. After a scoreless first quarter, the Dragons were first to get things going with a receiving TD to veteran receiver number 14, Jared Prentice. The extra point was no good. The Rangers soon found the end zone themselves, with the extra point being converted and a lead of 7-6. They added another TD and extra point conversion to end the half at 14-6. A huge defensive effort by the Dragons in the third quarter saw them score their first safety of the season. The Rangers converted a field goal attempt to extend their lead before the Dragons hit back with a TD but failed the two-point conversion. We're going to be in for a close finish with the Rangers leading 17-14. The Dragons went into overdrive with two TDs to take and extend their lead 26-17 after both two-point conversions failed. As you would expect, the Rangers managed to punch it into the end zone with a converted extra point. They found themselves behind with over a minute remaining in the game. The Dragons were able to run out the clock to cause the first big upset of the 2019 season. Western Crusaders 66 defeated the Pakenham Silverbacks 0. It was the second week in a row that the Silverbacks had to travel to the opposite ends of Melbourne for a game. That in itself can take a mental toll on you. The Crusaders had no issue with travel for this one. As expected, it was never close on the scoreboard. The Crusaders' experience was far too much for the inexperienced Silverbacks. There were some positive signs for Pakenham, like the performance of Dexter Harwa, who had an interception and gained yards in offense. The Crusaders extended their unbeaten run over the last 3 seasons. Melton Wolves 28 defeated the Northern Raiders 22. These two clubs have been forming a fierce rivalry over the past 2 seasons. Both clubs were looking different personnel-wise to the 2017 Division II Championship game. The Raiders looked like a very young outfit that was drastically low on numbers, while the Wolves had a healthier-looking sideline with plenty of rookies playing just their second game. Playing numbers may have played a part in the Raiders giving up a 16-point lead. QB Michael Neubauer was leading the Raiders in his second full season after coming up from the Colts team. He didn't disappoint with his accurate and quick passes catching the Wolves defense off guard. The Wolves defense didn't do themselves any favors with 3 personal fouls, 2 for roughing the passer and allowing the Raiders to gain a large number of yards after the catch. The Raiders receivers did a fantastic job getting open and into the clear. Their first drive lasted 5 minutes and ended in a 27-yard TD pass. The Wolves were performing like they were newborn wolf cubs learning to walk for the first quarter. It took until the second quarter for them to find the end zone, but trailing 14-6. The Raiders' next score was a 43-yard pass over the top of the Wolves' DBs, who continued to struggle. The Wolves hit back straight away with a 46-yard rushing TD by Charlene Baker. By this time, the weather had turned with wind and rain, making conditions difficult for both QBs. The Raiders went for broke on all 4th down plays due to not having a punter. It wasn't ideal as they gave the Wolves perfect field position on a number of occasions. At halftime, the Raiders led 22-12 and looked the more settled. The heavens opened up during the break and continued for most of the second half. Wolves head coach Tony Simmons wasn't happy, taking the players behind closed doors. The Wolves came out a different team and started to mount good drives, mainly due to number 88 Daniel Mansueto and Charlene Baker pounding the ball down the middle of the field. Dropped passes and 7 fumbles by the Raiders saw them lose field position and hand the Wolves the opportunity to score their first passing TD for the year by quarterback David Parkinson to wide receiver Lachlan Vela. With the 2-point conversion successful, the Wolves were only down by 2. The next few possessions by both teams didn't lead to any more scoring, despite the Wolves having an opportunity from the 12-yard line but failed to convert on 4th down. With just over 2 minutes to play, the Raiders just needed to go to the ground game and control the clock. Surprisingly, they opted to pass into the strong wind with the ball
intercepted by
number 20, Stephen Calvert, returning it 34 yards for the game-winning touchdown and a Melton Wolves celebration. Realistically, the Raiders should have won and won well. Poor clock management and fatigue may have played a factor in the loss.
To ensure that we stop having slow starts, we have to continue training properly, keep training harder, and also we need to also change our mentality. Our mentality is still of last year, and this is a new year. We need to let go of last year and continue moving forward. The team did a great job in the comeback. They just kept pushing, using the techniques and training that we have done in practice, and now we are able to pull off a game like that. But we have to continue to keep pushing and continue with the new training and the new thought process that we have so we can come out and be better every week.
Melbourne Uni Royals 44 defeated the Southeastern Predators 28. This was the first game for the Royals while the Preds were coming off a disappointing loss. Royals opened up the scoring with a converted 2-point attempt. The Predators then scored twice to take the surprise lead 14-8 early in the second quarter. Despite the positive start by the Predators, they soon found themselves down 30-14 with 3 consecutive receiving TDs from quarterback Dylan Latoga to Nick Forey, Jacob Curran, and Harry Roberts. The Predators scored a TD before the Royals sealed the deal with 2 more receiving TDs to Jacob Curran.
It's always good when you can go out and compete against another team. The Predators are a hard and physical team, so it was a great first game for us. As for our performance, there was plenty to like and plenty to look at and correct on the park. And that's ultimately what you're wanting to see and what we're wanting to see. Growth week to week, continuing to improve and get better.
Monash Warriors 85 defeated the Peninsula Sharks 0. Last season saw this game as a definite mismatch. The Sharks were going to be in for a very rough day having to face the Warriors. The Sharks would have been hoping to get through this one injury-free and their heads held high after having to travel 2 weeks in a row. The Warriors were clinical and easily disposed of the Sharks, kicking off their season with a huge win.
So yeah, it's obviously not the outcome anyone wants after the game, but playing the Warriors, they're a pretty well unit. So going up against them, was a big ask anyway. We were hoping just to put at least some points on the board, but we couldn't really move the ball. We just couldn't get the momentum we did like we were playing the Wolves. I don't know why. We were already missing 2 guys from the Wolves game. We had a couple other new guys come down, so still clicking. Everyone's still moving in the same positions, but we just couldn't get the outcome that we wanted, even just to score. The Warriors, I gave them a bit of crap, saying they should put triple digits. They were weak, but they were really good sports. It was a really good game to play against them. The guys are fantastic. Real good sportsmen at the end of the game, and what we take out of it was, we just had fun on the day. No injuries, which was great. It was a whip and rip a day, and it was just more saying to the boys at the end of the day that we just need to get to training and need to execute the playbook and train hard, and it will definitely reflect on the field. That's probably the only thing we can really take away from the day, other than everyone said that they had a really good time, and as I said, the Warriors were really good sports about it too. That's all I can say. We've got a bye week, so can't wait for that. So we'll be doing some extra training, but and hopefully we'll come back stronger for round 4.
Geelong Buccaneers 28 defeated the Monash Barbarians 6. For the second week in a row, the Buccaneers were playing at home in front of a passionate crowd. The Barbarians were getting ready for their first official hit-out for 2019. This game was expected to be one-sided, but the Barbarians came out fighting and proving their critics wrong. The Barbarians managed to score and kept the Buccaneers 28 points. The highlight of the game was the first receiving TD for rookie wide receiver number 7,